The report is quite a long one, and I'm going to try and summarise it in 25 or 30 minutes. And of course that means there are many things I won't be covering. But let me just start, not with anything detailed about any individual country or with statistics, but with two pictures. And these are pictures which are taken in a town that I visited when we were doing the research for the report in eastern Congo. And as many of you will know who have worked on the Democratic Republic of Congo, it's one of the most violent societies in the world. It's a conflict that's been going on in its most recent form for probably around 15 to 20 years, but actually somewhat longer than that. And these pictures were taken in a camp for displaced people. It's in North Kivu province, and there are about 1 million displaced people in North Kivu. And it's a sort of camp where those of you who have visited Africa or worked in these areas will understand what these places are like. But they're settlements of people who have really lost pretty much everything. They've often lost family members, they've lost their assets, they have very little income, the health indicators are really appalling. And the thing that really struck me in this camp was the situation here in the bottom. Because this is a school that the community, in a completely spontaneous fashion, have built themselves. They've found ways of pooling their resources to hire a teacher. You can see most of the kids don't have books, but they've cut down trees and made benches. What I think this picture tells you is something about the extraordinary resolve and courage of people in the middle of conflict to maintain the right to an education. And for me, what it captures is this idea that the human right to education is not an abstract or legalistic concept. It's about these 8, 9, 10-year-old kids who are trying to find some way out of the poverty that they will experience if they don't get an education. And interestingly, actually, because they have to pay the teachers, many of the kids, when they're not in school, are working, like the child on the top picture, selling charcoal. And he actually works selling charcoal for about 9 hours a day and spends most of the money that he gets to pay his school fees. So I just wanted to start with those pictures to give you a sense of the issue that we're describing in the report. Is that conflict is a really big barrier to all of these goals that were being described earlier, the Millennium Development Goals. And the countries that are furthest off track for those goals are, by and large, conflict-affected countries. So there's a very direct linkage between violent conflict and the denial of the right to education. And that happens, of course, because education systems get caught up in conflict. They become a target for armed groups in conflict. But not all of the links go in one direction. There are also linkages that go from education into conflict. If you give children the wrong type of education, it can make societies more prone to conflict. If you use the education system to separate children on the basis of their ethnicity or their language, if you use the curriculum to fill children with prejudice against another group, of course it makes societies more prone to violence. And that's why education can both be a very strong force for building peace, but it can equally be a strong cause, a strong factor in creating conflict as well. Education systems are now regarded by protagonists in conflict, whether we're talking about government forces, insurgent forces, schools and school teachers and children are increasingly regarded as legitimate targets. And in fact, more than being regarded as legitimate targets, they're regarded as strategic targets, because schools are often seen as a symbol of government authority, and inflicting terror on school children and school teachers is seen as a way of undermining government authority. And so this systematic targeting of children in schools is, if you like, an inbuilt feature of conflicts that we observe around the world. And within that, there's one form of violence which is incredibly pervasive, which is rape and sexual violence against young girls. And this is true in particular in many of the conflicts in sub-Saharan Africa that we look at. But it doesn't only apply to sub-Saharan Africa, it applies also in Afghanistan, Colombia to some degree, and elsewhere. And it's interesting, actually, if you read the report of the UN Secretary General on this subject. I actually put on my word search when I was reading the report, and the word that comes up most consistently is impunity. In other words, these are crimes carried out against girls with complete impunity on the part of the perpetrators, whether they're government forces or insurgent forces.